Hey YouTube, this is Justin here, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today I've got another product review, and this one should be pretty cool. This is a product from worlddrummers.com, which I've talked about before, and what we're going to take a look at here is, well, it's not pizza, but this is called a UFO plate from World Drummers, and let me just pull it out here. And what this thing does, it is actually supposed to be basically the easiest way to convert an acoustic snare drum to an electric one. Basically, all you have to do is just take the top head off of your acoustic snare drum, lay this inside, and then put a mesh head on top, and basically run the jack through the vent hole on the side of the drum, and it should be very easy theoretically. However, there is one little issue here. I did run into something I noticed already when I was trying this on a different snare drum. I noticed that the barrel jack is quite a bit short and definitely not long enough to fit through most wooden shells. So I would recommend using either a metal shell or doing something like I'm going to do today. If you have a metal shell snare, it should work exactly as intended. Now, I spoke to the people over at World Drummers, and they let me know that they are planning on making longer barrel jacks. What I'm gonna be using it on is this very inexpensive Mendini snare drum from Amazon. I have a bandana under here right now. That I was using this kind of as a 70s sounding snare, and actually it sounded pretty cool. But all I would have to do is take off the head, and I brought a drum-tec real feel mesh head that I'm going to replace the batter head with. Before we get started, if you use Spotify, there's a Spotify link down below for Demonic Sweaters. Follow us there, as well as any other streaming service. You can find Demonic Sweaters there as well. So I appreciate that. Be sure to follow, and I think you'll like the music. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so one thing I noticed here is the edge on this plate, the UFO plate, is actually, it's kind of square, it's kind of sharp, and I actually don't really like that. I would think that this would be much better if it were rounded off, because when you set it on the actual drum itself, it creates a really sharp edge on the side of the drum, which I could see if you're over tightening your snare drum head, or even just tightening it, that could cause it to rip, I would think. I would like to see that a little bit more rounded, a little bit, just smoothed out around the edge. I mean, it doesn't feel sharp, but it is quite a, a square angle on there. But we'll see. Maybe it won't really cause any problems at all. Maybe mesh, won't really be affected by that. But we'll see. So I think I'm going to have to take off the bottom as well to be able to deal with the electronics there. So let's do that too. So as you can see, the jack is definitely not long enough to go through the shell and to secure it on the other side. Okay, so I think I came up with a pretty good solution here. And as you can see, all I did is I poked a hole through a 2-ply mesh head. I had this old Millennium mesh head here. And then I used the plate that they give you to basically put on the outside of the shell, and secured that using the bolt that they give you, basically as you would through a metal shell. But I think this metal plate makes it strong enough to be able to secure this to a mesh head. So I'm going to put the hoop back on there, and we'll see how it works. But I think that should be good. Okay, so here it is reassembled, and as you can see, it looks pretty clean like that. And I just removed the strainer completely and the throw off and everything, just because I didn't really want it rattling around on there. You can leave them on. A lot of times I'll leave mine on and just tighten it up. But this one I was like, I'll just take it off and maybe just save the throw off for another project if I ever need it. But one last step I'm going to do here is this stuff. This is by Pentec. This is very useful. Pentec sells a lot of little useful parts like this. They may not be the best at making drums anymore, but they still sell a lot of very useful products for building drums. And this is silent trim is what they call it, and this you can just put around the hoop, so that way when you strike the rim, you don't get a really loud cracking sound as you would on an acoustic drum. Now this will only work on a triple flange hoop. I don't think silent trim will work on a die cast hoop because they're a different shape. So the triple flange, just fine. All right, this thing works far better than I expected. It is triggering really, really well. The module that I'm using is an ATV XD3. Now, I did have some trouble with the cross stick function, but to be honest, I had trouble with that on every snare that I've tried with this module, because I believe the ATVs have like a wooden, basically wooden block on the side of the snare to pick up the cross stick, and that seems to make it work a little bit better. Now, I was able to get it to cross stick reliably if I changed some of the settings in the module. Basically, by lowering the sensitivity of the drum, I was able to do that. So if you're using a lot of cross stick, you might have to do that, unless you build, you know, like kind of a side cross stick block like that is on the ATV drums. But, you know, it's not a deal breaker for me. It is by far the easiest trigger to install that I've ever used. And it actually works really, really well aside from that cross stick function. Everything else triggers great. I mean, I don't get a lot of hot spotting even though it's in the center, and I feel like it picks up rolls really well, which can, you know, be difficult on certain triggers. I know red shots aren't really the best with rolls, even though they work pretty well with everything else. But overall, I think it's really great. It's definitely a good buy, and if you want like a really easy way to convert acoustic drums to electronic, this is by far the easiest I've ever tried. And even with it not fitting through the shell, I think the solution that I came up with going through the mesh head on the bottom and just poking a little hole through it and then running it through there and using that plate, it seems to be secure enough where I don't think it's going to cause any problems, and it still looks really nice. So overall, I highly recommend the UFO plate from worlddrummers.com. These guys are just one of the coolest stores around right now. You can buy all kinds of stuff on their website. They're not paying me to say this at all. I mean, they did send me this for free to check it out, but you know, I'm not like being sponsored or anything like that, making money off of this video. So anyway, I just think it's really cool. Check it out. There's a link down below, and I'll see y'all really soon. Have a great day. Later.